74.
Oh, and your weekend watch list.
You got
it's
it
going
all.
to be a great show. We'll see y'all tomorrow. It's
tomorrow.
Friday almost.
KUAM TV8, first on Guam.
KUAM News, winner of the 2022 Regional Edward R. Murrow Award for Excellence in Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion.
Just want to make sure I don't speak. Yeah, I was hearing that interplay going there. It's kind of exciting. Okay, good morning and hafa day. Thank you all for being here. We're here today to have a news conference regarding a homeless relocation initiative. There is apparently a problem that Guam is experiencing by groups of homeless people, members of our community, who are in need of help. And today I'm here with the Lieutenant Governor Joshua Tenorio, as well as Mayor Melissa Savares on behalf of the Mayor's Council of Guam, as well as the Attorney General's Office. We are your public servants that are here to help. The program initiative was intended to relocate, as the initiative states, these people from the current locations that they're at throughout the island to alternate locations and to receive the help that they need in order to get back on their feet. We presume that these people are in need of help because they're living in conditions unlike the rest of us and require assistance. The Attorney General's Office has taken the step to review this from a legal point of view on the authority of the government to intervene to help the individuals, as well as to enforce the people's right for a community that is free of homeless on island. I'm going to open this up to the persons present in order to ask questions once we have the Lieutenant Governor and Mayor Savares address you as well. We are the legal arm of the people of Guam to understand what laws exist out there, what rules we have to operate under that are passed by the Guam legislature. In terms of the notices, we have given notices to the homeless. The first area that we wish to address is up in Derelict. If I can have Harvey, please pass out. Harvey, please pass out these notices to the people present. This is what was provided to the encampment that people often refer to as the Micronesia Mall location. The purpose of the notice is to provide legal notice that they will have to clear their camp. A successful operation is going to be that when the government chooses to visit them, that there will be nobody there. In the notice, as you'll see, it provides the Lieutenant Governor, the administration's available services, as well as the Mayor's Council of Guam's on-site type of capability for helping these people out. Having said that, I'm going to open it up to the Lieutenant Governor to address issues from his perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney General. Good morning. Let me first, of course, say that being homeless is not a crime, but our efforts are to try and identify folks so that we can provide them with proper shelter. We also have, of course, a responsibility to make sure that everybody, all of us, are responsible for following the law. And unfortunately, in some cases, in the encampment that the Attorney General's talked about, we have seen occurrences of violence and other activities that many in the community have been voicing concerns over. So this effort really is to try and reach this group. And I'll say that there have been numerous outreach efforts conducted with various members of this camp. Some of the members of the camp have been sheltered before. Unfortunately, some of them have violated shelter rules and found themselves outside. Some of them have refused shelter. So it, of course, is a very complicated situation when we're dealing with this kind of human service. But this effort is to try and get these people to avail of the services that are available from the government and from the nonprofit communities. I invite, of course, the public to continue to monitor our efforts with the monthly Interagency Council on Homelessness meetings that occur virtually. And I'll just announce, of course, that in addition to all of the numerous shelters that we have shelters that we support through various public agencies that are focused on women and children, victims of domestic violence. We have shelters that are specifically supported by nonprofits that are catered to men, many men that are in recovery. We have other shelters and homes that are for individuals with disabilities or folks that can be able to live in some sort of independent living arrangement, but with some assistance. And so over the next few months, you'll see our efforts continue to expand the number of shelter options. As stated before in our Interagency Council on Homelessness meeting, we have acquired an apartment building in Anigua that I have activated the National Guard to complete. This shelter is going to be used to decompress shelters, in many ways offer opportunities for people who are in recovery and are able to reunify with their children and be in a stable housing facility. My office, along with the Office of Homelessness Assistance and Poverty Prevention, is currently doing the market research to identify, through proper planning and collaboration with our partners, a proper place for a drop-in center. We understand that there's a portion of the homeless population that either refuses or may not be prepared to take residence in a structured homeless shelter or a structured group housing facility. And for those, and many of those are the ones that we are likely to find in encampments, for those we are doing the market research to identify a drop-in center, a bed for the night. Some place that we can have additional and more forward-leaning interventions and provide people with an opportunity to avail services, especially mental health services and behavioral health and substance abuse services. Those are very critical. So I'll just close by saying that this is a balance. Again, being homeless is not a crime, but we have a responsibility on this island to make sure we follow the laws. And where there's and when there is violence, when there is public drunkenness, where there's a danger to members of the community, especially our children, we are compelled to act. And that's what this effort is, this partnership that you have across the government and with the Attorney General's office. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Mayor Suarez?
Thank you, AG Moynihan. The Mayor's Council's program will continue to assist any individuals at any of the encampments with the necessary documents that they need to turn in their applications for whether it be housing, public assistance, and so they've all offices have been instructed that if a family comes in just for food stamp and Medicaid, and they have children, to also give for block grants, program ng Kanila ni Famaguon, the WIC program. So all the programs that families and individuals from the household can qualify for. We're also involved with this because we too, as mayors, are concerned of the safety of all members of these encampments. Many times we do see children that are there with families and children that need to be in school. Some are in these encampments because they're closer to the schools and children are still there, but of course they still come back to the encampment. So of course the main priority is the safety, and the Mayor's Council together with all 19 mayors will provide the necessary assistance to obtain the documents that they need to apply for the different services that are available to them. Thank you.
Attorney General, before we go on, I'd just like to introduce the partners that are at the table. To my right is Rob San Agustin, the Director of the Office of Homelessness Assistance and Poverty Prevention, and is Vice Chair of the Guam Homeless Coalition. Next to him is Samantha Taitano, the Executive Director of Manetlu. She is the Chairwoman of the Guam Homeless Coalition. Next to her is former Senator Clint Rigel, the Deputy Chief of Staff to our administration. Of course, Chief of Police Steve Ignacio, the Director of Public Works, Vince Ariola, and the Director of the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center, a member of both the Interagency Council on Homelessness and the Guam Homeless Coalition, Therese Ariola. General.
Thank you. So having said that, I will open this up to the media, and I want to thank the media for being here, because you're doing part of our job as an Attorney General's office to educate the community and to provide the legal notices that we want to give in advance of any government operation that will be addressing these homeless encampments. As I said, we'll be working closely with each mayor of every village where an encampment has been identified. There are away teams that the AG's office sends out in order to question the individuals, to identify who the private landowners might be, whether it's on public property. And that's how key the mayors of each village are, because oftentimes they know the people there, they know who owns the properties that they're squatting upon, and so forth. So at that, I'll open it up to the questions that might be from the medias, to everybody that's at the tables up here. Thank you.
I have a question. Where exactly are they being relocated to?
So what the effort is, in a few days after the 5-day notice, we will have a team assembled on the farmers market with the mayor. Whoever is left at that encampment will be there. We will have wraparound services so we can identify who they are, see where they are in the system, and try and find them proper placement. Many of these people come from homes, and so I just say that a lot of folks out there, they might be having a family conflict, and of course we also have services to help families reunite. In many ways, hopefully this is going to be a family reunification.
Right, these people are people in need. Again, as I mentioned, the objective is, if they want to reach out to us in advance, and on the sheets of paper that they were given yesterday, it specifically has telephone numbers if they need help to relocate to maybe back to a family relative that's willing to take them in. That is the preference of the government. We are the safety net when the families cannot take care of these people. And I will tell you, based on our investigators' investigations, the Micronesia Mall appears to be all locals from good family names. So I offer and I ask the families that are out there If your brother, sister, a parent is at one of these camps, please go see them and offer them the help that we as a community have always relied upon. This is a clan island. There's many families here that can help these people. And the fact that a government is intervening, to Mamamau, right? Shame on the family. Find your people, bring them back home, so the government doesn't have to do that. Thank you.
Can you give us a status on the shelters, especially the ones that are up and coming and not yet established?
Yeah, so the shelter in Anigua actually is predominantly going to be used for transitional housing. So when you understand and do some research and maybe consult with everybody, we had a summit on homelessness in November. There is a growing need to provide transitional housing for people who've come off the street, stabilized, in many ways are looking to either hold together or unite with minor children and provide them the next step in getting housing security. So that shelter in Anigua, which is also going to be transitional housing, the National Guard's been activated to make the final, to complete the final renovations of that facility, and that is an indication, unfortunately, of the lack of contractors that are available to continue to complete that kind of work in a timely manner. So I would say that I'll give you an update on the revised timeline for occupancy of that location at the regular meeting of the Interagency Council on Homelessness will be coming up in a few weeks.
So in the interim, what's the status of the capacity for the shelters that already exist?
Well, there's daily, I guess the populations fluctuate daily. There is a shelter that is operated by Catholic Social Services with funds from GURA that has a rotating or a revolving waiting list. Many times people who are getting in there find shelter options, and maybe if I can ask Rob or Samantha maybe to throw in and maybe discuss the dynamic part of that, if that's okay.
Hello. So yes, with the shelters, most of the time our shelters are all at capacity. Just to give you a little bit of idea about the Guam Homeless Coalition, we're made up of a bunch of nonprofit organizations, government agencies, and then also just concerned citizens and businesses that come together to strategize on how we're going to end homelessness. And so a lot of our member organizations are the ones that take care of the shelters, and like I said, a lot of times all of our shelters are at capacity. We have people who will either find housing or decide that they don't maybe want to follow the shelter rules, and that's usually when the openings kind of come up. But typically the shelters are full. We also have programs that are looking to kind of match people into housing, but sometimes the process can be quite lengthy. When someone's experiencing homelessness, they may have lost all of their documentation, and because a lot of these programs are federally funded, you're going to need all of this documentation in order to become housed. The Guam Homeless Coalition, separately, thanks to donations, we also do a 5-day sheltering that the coalition pays for, again, all through the donations. And usually that sheltering, from the data that we've collected, it really just kind of allows our caseworkers at the different agencies enough time to connect them with either a family or a friend who's able to house them. But those, again, are kind of sort of atypical situations. I also just kind of want to let the AG and his office know that the Guam Homeless Coalition is more than happy to work with you on a lot of these initiatives. We definitely want to be part of the conversation because the question about relocating, where are we going to relocate them to, sometimes it's not as easy as finding a friend or family. And like I said, the shelters are at capacity and have waiting lists. And so it might mean that you say you can't be here anymore, and then they just pop up somewhere else.
Right.
So, we have the different organizations that are part of the coalition have different outreach teams that are working to build relationships with these individuals. Like the Lieutenant Governor said, sometimes people aren't ready to take that step to go into housing, and a lot of times it's working with people to gain their trust. There's a lot of trauma that's involved with one, becoming homeless and then the experience of being homeless. And so we really want to make sure that we don't lose the trust and the connections that some of the outreach teams have already developed.
Exactly. It's not an easy issue. That's why everybody recognizes up here it's complicated. And that's why you see all the different government departments and elected leaders that have to be involved in this. I will say that I believe the Lieutenant Governor, there's a lot of programs that are work in progress. We see it in the States where you actually have facilities that don't necessarily house them, but can provide an evening meal, a place to rest, to sleep. We're most concerned about the children, that children are being exposed to this. And any operation we do will be very sensitive to protecting the children. The fact that we've seen them in these areas is disconcerting enough. But anything the government does, we have the professionals here, public health is involved as well, to ensure that the safety of the children and also their emotional security. We don't want to, again, have them seeing their parents put through this type of ordeal. Hence, why we're trying to give as much public notice and as much help out there to come out to us in advance before we have to come in there and remove the people from these places. And I believe one of the programs too, one of the things that we want to do is to also provide an opportunity to work. I think that the Lieutenant Governor and with the Mayor's assistance are going to, at the staging facility, when we actually move in, we'll have the service providers to maybe offer them a job application that would be consistent with their lives, their history, their training, and so forth. Even if it's a runner or somebody that can clean up around the village. This is why we have the administration, the executive branch here, and the mayors to provide potential solutions.
I have a question for the AG. Last time during the special Mayor's Council Guam meeting, you mentioned that you don't want to hit them with trespass or public nuisance complaints.
Right.
But what's changed since then?
Well, that is the legal basis. Two of the many other legal bases in which the government has the authority to go in and break the camp up. Let's make no bones about it. The AG's office is here to break these camps up. But before we do that, we're going to provide as much notice, hence your being here today, to offer them alternative solutions. But when we go in there, we're not only going to have the law enforcement present with the chief of police and his men and women, but also secondary services available. But if we have resistance, we will deal with it for purposes of the law. There is a legal authority to go in there and to remove them. This is not the way our society, and this is not the way we want our society to be like what we're seeing in the news, where you have people defecating in the streets. It's a bad look for Guam. It's bad on our tourism. They hurt our tourism, and half of our money that we're so used to living on will be hurt. People will find alternative places to travel when they see these type of things that are going unchecked by the government. So there's many different reasons why we're doing this. This was not a hard-nosed approach from day one, but I think when you look at it, we must break up, relocate, whatever you want to call it, these encampments on Guam. And if you count them, there's more than 5. You go to every village mayor and you talk about where are these people. They're both our people that are immigrants in different locations. This is going to be the template for us moving forward from village to village. And I want to thank again the Lieutenant Governor and the Mayor's Council of Guam, Mayor Savares. This has got to be done, and we've got to take a first step, and that's what we're here for today.
I just want to add that all of us have different missions and responsibilities, right? But the one thing is that we all have to communicate with each other. And so, as Attorney General said, he has a mission to enforce the laws of Guam. It's helpful for all of us that either provide logistical assistance for such efforts or provide human services to the people that are going to be subject to the action to understand and know about it so we can try and do an intervention. I'm hopeful that by the time that the Attorney General and the law enforcement police department, the other agencies that are responsible for enforcing the laws must take their action, that the other parts of the government that are responsible for human services and behavioral care services are able to try and do an intervention and try and find pathways prior to that. But let there not be a mistake, though. Unfortunately, the camp in question was notoriously featured in news media for violence, and the people of Guam have been asking for intervention. They want to see that kind of business resolved. And that's the other part of the government's responsibility. It's complicated. And as Sam talked about, we don't have all the resources online to accomplish everything, and no state or territory has such. But I think that we can be focused. And one of the areas that active market research is being done by our Office of Homelessness Assistance, and the governor has made a commitment, is to secure a facility that the Attorney General was talking about, a bed for the night facility that will allow some of the people that we have in social services who are trained to try and assist people who, as Sam pointed out, may not be ready or comfortable getting into a structured shelter situation. But the other parts of the government, they have a mission to help those folks that must get the help. And I think that this is going to be a posture that allows us to be more aggressive in the treatment and placement options, because the other part of the government that has the law enforcement and public safety functions are doing their part of what the people expect.
Maybe you said it earlier, but how many encampments are you targeting? And since we talked about capacity earlier, what would you do? Are you all going to go to the farmers market? What would you do when there's just nowhere to relocate them?
And let me just say that the farmers market is going to be used for the wraparound services. That is not intended to be a placement. It is inappropriate. That's a place where food is being sold. But it's a place operationally that the agencies can coordinate for that day.
Well, we are going to use this, again, this is the pilot operation. And we're going to see, we've sent the AG investigators out. They've done some intel. We're aware of certain things that are going in the numbers that appear to be there. So we shall see. You know, this is not going to be a perfect operation. No operation is normally perfect, but we're trying to help, like I opened up. And by doing nothing, we create more harm to our community. And it's not just the people and the homeless, it's everybody around them. On this particular one, we're aware that these people are panhandling. We're aware that they're going to the mall and using the facilities, restrooms, you name it. And that's why these service providers here are very important, because we've seen it in the States. If you can provide a place where they can get their shower, they can get a meal, they can try to become functional again. And these people aren't just like all of us in the room. You've got meth addicts in there. That's what information is showing. These are not the perfect people. These are people that are hurt by society. They're victims of our society in a certain respect, and they need our help. That's the rosy side of it. The realistic side of it, we're well aware that they may try to come back. That's why DPW is here. We're going to be cleaning those facilities out. The cars are going to be removed. Everything there, trash, as you can see from the photos and things like that. The operation is intended to help them, take them away from that area, and then clean it out, so they won't be coming back to the same place that they're going to have left from.
How many encampments? Do you have a number?
The Derelict one it's broken up maybe between 3, but the total number of people could be up to 20 or more.
What for the rest of the villages?
And that is why we have the Mayor's Council. We have done, I think the AG's office has assessed maybe 3 or 4 of them, but there's many more. And that's why this is, again, the beginning pilot project. We're going to adapt. We're going to see what we see. We're going to be hopefully ready to take care of everything and everybody's needs that might be present. Also, again, hence I'm going back on it, the family system. These are, as I can tell you, Micronesia Mall are locals. local families. Reach out, get the family members out there, reach out to them. Give them some help, offer them help, show them the love that they need to see. Yes?
How is an encampment defined by the government or identified? Is it by population? Is it by the putting up of more permanent structures? And how is that differentiated, say, from maybe certain parks or areas where there might be a large homeless population returning to sleep each night, but they don't have tarps up, or they're not living there perhaps 24 hours?
How we see it in the communities, and of course it was the mayors that actually brought this up when we met with the AG at our mayor's council meeting, is that in all of our villages, most of our villages, we know where there's groups and they've set up tarps, some of them living in their cars, and we see the activities. And of course, the one in front of the Micronesian Mall in particular, they're also, during the day they go into the businesses, but most importantly is that they're there panhandling, which becomes a safety issue for the mayors because the traffic, we see the heavy traffic that we have in our communities, and you see where they're panhandling, their children are sitting on the sidewalks, and then at night, at the end of the day, they go into the little camp area, and that's where they they sleep for the night. So it's a safety concern. In our particular area, we have runners early in the mornings and late in the evenings that are running up and down these sidewalks to exercise. We have tourists that are walking from the Micronesia Mall back to Tumon on these sidewalks. So of course, the safety, not just for the people walking on the sidewalks, the tourists, but also the people that are crossing the streets. And so that's, safety is number one. And because the people from the encampment are also panhandling on the different medians that are there. So of course it's about what can we do to help them. They're causing situations in the nearby businesses, not just panhandling on the road, but also customers are afraid to go to KUAM American Bakery and the Micronesia Mall because people are asking them for money as they're in there doing their shopping. So, we're working together. We, as a mayor's council, just like the Tumaning mayor, Gutnia mayor, they also have their different encampments that have been identified. But this is the pilot program on how we're going to work with the different agencies. And like the AG said, and the Lieutenant Governor, there's also some types of substance abuse or addiction. And that's why we have our program, our different agencies here to help maybe funnel them into those programs. They have to be willing, but then of course, how can we show them? I have an individual who's part of one of the encampments. He's a certified X-ray technician. And however, he's admitted that he's an alcoholic. So how can we help him? Can he go to a behavioral health program and help his alcohol addiction so that he can get back into the working as a contributing member to his family? And he admitted, if I don't have days off because I'm always working, I don't drink. But on my days off, I like to drink. So what is it? There are people that are skilled. However, they do have vices that they need help to address. So that's what we're here to work together with.
And I will, Director Areola is here to address the derelict buildings as well. I understand that there was a recent, if you can address that, to kind of address your question there. This is, the effort is maybe get a little bit broader in terms of actual structures that are being used for homelessness. I believe there's a recent operation that DPW did along with the AG's office.
Okay. Thank you very much, AG and Lieutenant Governor. Yeah, we've been on this derelict structure building for about 2 years right now. A lot of you folks have covered it. We've encountered families in some of the derelict buildings. We've gotten one up in Jigo right now that we're trying to assess, and we're we're trying to fix. But again, a lot of these things are very sensitive, and yes, they do involve children. That's probably one of the most difficult parts to resolving things like this. But you know, there is a law in the books, and it has to do with the derelict buildings. We can cite them, we can issue them notices of violations, we can board them up, we can raise them, and actually charge the owners. We haven't done that yet. We were able to get pretty good compliance. There's a few others that we haven't gotten any compliance. Majority of the owners are off island, so that complicates the issue further. But I think, you know, once we take this initiative further, the homelessness, the derelict structures, cleaning up the island, things of these where issues like these that are actually, there's laws on the books that actually prohibit them. You know, I think we're going to ramp up our efforts and just make Guam a better place to live. That's really all we're trying to do.
Let me just add that the derelict building project started really after a minor child was sexually assaulted in an abandoned home in the village of Dedido. And this effort started when Mayor Melissa Savares talked with me and Director Arreola and the governor about some of the dangers that are occurring in the neighborhoods, especially where a lot of children are walking to school. So on top of that, I just also wanted to talk about abandoned vehicles on the village streets. And we see, looks like some of them could be maybe home garages or so. Home garages on private property, that might be a different thing, but we have vehicles on public rights of way. And I'll just say that the next effort for this area is trying to make sure that people know when they dispose of a vehicle, they need to dispose of it properly. If they sell a vehicle, it's in their best interest to make sure that the new registered owner is recorded at the Department of Revenue and Taxation. And so in the next few weeks and months, you'll also see a partnership with the Mayor's Council, the Department of Revenue and Taxation, and the Office of Attorney General, identifying vehicle numbers and getting compelling residents to remove their vehicles from the rights of way. Some of these vehicles are dangerous. Many of them are dangerous, especially to young children that are walking to school. White goods, we have programs that mayors have to remove abandoned vehicles and also white goods. So there's, as Director Arreola said, you know, and this also is an issue that I've been working on monthly in our Island-wide Beautification Task Force meeting, trying to really make the villages safe. That's the objective. And some of these uncover some of the human services needs. It gives us an opportunity to activate some of the teams that are in different agencies, including some teams at behavioral health, to go out and do some interventions. And honestly, of course, things are not going to be resolved over the course of a day or a few weeks or a month even. But it's something that we all have to really work on pretty aggressively, I would say. But I just wanted to add those on.
And the comment from the AG's office perspective, the Director Arreola's reference, I believe it was 6 children that were found in the derelict building alone. Great. So the AG's office was made aware of that through the good work of the Department of Public Works and Director Arreola. But when they went to that structure, there was no parents there. So they had 6 children. The court system had to be notified, and the children were put in foster care. It's not easy, as everyone's saying. There's complications with drug use, substance abuse, hardships in lives, all those things. So, are there other questions?
Yeah, you mentioned panhandling several times. I know there is an initiative to address that. Are police going out and speaking to the ones that are deviants now? What will happen if a panhandler is existing panhandler?
Sure. So currently there is a panhandling law, the Aggressive Panhandling Act, and it does allow for certain types of panhandling activities. However, I want to be clear that panhandling in the median those people walking down the middle of the road on those raised islands, that is illegal. And so we currently continue to do enforcement with that. I think our next approach moving forward and working with the AG's office is to provide a warning. And the second time would result in possibly a citation for violating the Panhandling Act. And as we move forward, we look at who the violators are. And if there's continuous violations, that we may even result in an arrest. So we're looking at panhandling and getting them off that median. And I think the AG's office has other initiatives that he'd like to push forward with regards to panhandling. The only thing we can do as police is just currently enforce the existing statute.
What kind of information is included in the warning?
Of course, the warning is you're violating the law by panhandling in the middle of the road on the raised median. And that will result in a warning, of course, to let them know what the violation is. The second time we encounter the same person, of course, it will result in a citation. As we move forward and we continue to find the same violator, then work with the AG's office to see what other types of enforcement we can do, which may even result in an arrest.
Are police providing information on services when they come up to these people?
I'm not a service provider. I don't understand the question.
This is where the lieutenant governor and the mayors will come in. Right now, this is, I'm not so sure that this has been the skepticism that we've been facing as a government. I think most people, when they see the panhandlers, they're aggressively using their hardship to collect monies. That's not ruling out that possibility that they would be made available. You're speaking to the chief of police, and I want to thank the chief along with the lieutenant governor and those officers out there, because without them, the AG's office deals mainly with the courts and convincing our judges and the juries to follow the perspective we bring when we charge the cases. The police officers are the ones that are actually enforcing these the panhandling type laws. Your question right now, we're in development of working with the mayors, working with the chief of police and the lieutenant governor to identify where the panhandlers are focusing on when they're coming in, having some sort of a notification to these law enforcement officials, and mayors are law enforcement officials, to cite them, take a photo of them, give them that first warning as the chief was mentioning. That is our approach. First warning. You get off one warning, and then if we find out that you're the same person that either appeared at another location or went back to that same location, the AG's office is ready to process an arrest. Okay? At some point, we have to bring the gauntlet down on these people to make it known out there, and hence the media is very important to this. Let the public know this is not going to be tolerated. The medians cannot be used. The sidewalks are very restricted, which includes an actual written notice to the chief of police. Whether we're going to bury it into the fire department's, their efforts, their drive to collect money or not, panhandling right now is highly restricted in our statutes. So that is on an ongoing project. We're going to be implementing it hopefully pretty soon. The lieutenant governor has already mentioned the panhandling and the panhandlers are going to be dealt with very soon.
I have another enforcement question. This is separate from panhandling, but unfortunately, if the worst should happen, just taking, for example, at the encampment across from Micronesia Mall, someone is, completely non-compliant, refuses to, leave the premises. Could you please walk me through what would be the steps for removal? Would it be an arrest? What kind of possible charges would be brought? I just think that would be important to include to give public notice as to, what can happen in the worst case scenario.
I have our chief prosecutor here, Heather Zona, and she can address that as well. Sure.
So, obviously we hope that would not ever happen. But in an instance where somebody is refusing to leave, they are then breaking the law. So we will have the police standing by. The police will be the ones to arrest, and then our office will prosecute if appropriate. So that's the process that we'll have to do.
That is correct, and again, as you can hear from all the people at this table, that is not our first choice. We're also aware that there could be people in those encampments that have outstanding arrest warrants on them. If they do anything to endanger the safety of both the people in the encampment or those service providers that go in there. That is why the chief of police is here. He will have his men in order to provide a safe relocation of all individuals in that camp. Children are the most important that we want to protect. Everybody there that's trying to help, obviously. And we're also aware that there's drug use. That's clear in the reports that I'm receiving. So meth addicts and people like that, we don't know what the responses could be. So it is a very dangerous situation that the Lieutenant Governor and the Mayor's Council is having to address here. These are not people that come from their homes after showering and enjoying everything, the amenities that we all enjoy. These are people that are out in the open, using the restroom in the boonies, having mosquitoes and everything else that you experience when you live out in the open. So we're taking this very seriously. The Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center is here through our Director Therese Areola, and she's also available if we have to address any incidents where the person appears to be needing mental health care. So we're trying to look at all the bases of what could happen, and address it in as human a way as possible. Thank you.
I'd just like to close by saying this. Around this table, again, people have different authorities and different responsibilities. The two individuals here from the nonprofit world and the OHAP, their mission is to provide ultimate assistance in the form of human services and to facilitate and advocate for services that may not be available. But they're certainly not part of law enforcement action that the Attorney General and the Chief of Police are part of. The Director of Public Works has a mission and responsibility to keep the roads safe. And that's a responsibility to also protect people from harms with derelict buildings. And Director of Behavioral Health, she is razorly focused on expanding the number of treatment options and also providing crisis intervention teams that can be activated before law enforcement gets there. So, and of course, the mayor and I, along with the Attorney General as elected leaders, we have a responsibility to our people and to make sure that we respond to the calls from our community for safe streets and for safe places for their children. But I have a responsibility to make sure that I support, enable, and provide human services and in some cases housing to people that find themselves homeless or at risk of homeless. And as all of us have said, this is not a very easy issue to deal with. There are pressures. There are philosophical differences, even based on the statutory mandates of the agencies or by the missions of the nonprofits. But at least in here, we're able to understand what each other are doing. And in cases that the law is going to be enforced, at least there is knowledge or information about some of the alternatives that can be put into the realm so that we could try and keep people off the streets and get them into a better place. Really, that's the mission. And it isn't a very simple way, a very simple thing to handle, but I'm always confident that we can do a lot of stuff here on Guam to prevent our situation from turning into the things you see in the streets of Honolulu or Los Angeles or in big city centers. And that's because we have still a very strong social and family fabric here. And for those families that have some disagreements and maybe there's family alienation, there's always been a desire for us to enable family reunification efforts. And this is where some of the other service providers come into play. So all things in the government have to work concurrently. It's just not one over the other. And I think that's sort of the situation we find ourselves in this issue today. I just want to thank everybody for doing their job and doing their responsibilities.
Good morning. I actually have a question. Isaiah, I'll get here. Samantha Kaisano mentioned earlier that identification is needed to get these services, to get services to not be homeless anymore, because these are federal programs. With that said, are there any efforts to help these individuals needing a place to stay to get these identification forms?
Well, for us at the Guam Homeless Coalition, as I mentioned earlier, we do have a lot of outreach teams throughout the various nonprofit organizations that are part of the coalition. And one of the key things that our case managers are doing is that process. And thanks to a partnership with the Interagency and OHAP and Rev and Tax, we've been able to address some of the barriers when it comes to identification. So we are working on that piece, and that's one of the key things when the case managers, after doing intake, is really trying to identify what documents they need. Sometimes it's a simpler process if somebody is not from Guam or was not born here in Guam. Sometimes it can be an even lengthier process communicating with other jurisdictions. So, but that is what our case managers do to assist clients.
And from a logistics point of view, the mayors, that's why the mayors will be part of the operation.
Yeah. So Isaiah, with that, the Mayor's Council also provides, because part of the documents that you need to get an ID, initial ID, is the mayor's verification. And they don't, like Samantha said, they're not all born here. So to get a birth certificate can be difficult, but we try to for the benefit of the doubt, that verification just needs their full name, their legal name, and their date of birth, and indicating that they're homeless. We get them that verification. OHAP actually makes the appointment at Rev and Tax, but it's all the agencies working together.
And for purposes of when this operation will come down, as I said, the mayors will have that, at least on this current one, at the Derelict flea market. So all these service providers should be there in order to help those that are actually at this Micronesia Mall homeless area.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to confirm the day and the time that
there will be the removal of the Micronesia Mall location.
Right now we're in discussions on that. Thank you.
And how long will the officials be there at the farmers market providing services?
Probably as long as needed.
Throughout the day.
Yeah, that's why this is a coordinated effort. We're also going to be reaching out to the nonprofit service providers and welcome them, Salvation Army, Red Cross, whoever wishes to be present that might be able to offer these people help, as well as like New Beginnings and the Lighthouse people that may have substance issues that they wish to voluntarily address. Yes.
And when will they be there?
They'll be there when we give the go that the operation is going to start. Everything will be set up. So we take them from the homeless encampment over to, in this case, the Derelict flea market, where the teams will be set up to process them, and we'll go from there.
And there were mentions that you were bringing a bus over there during the monthly meeting. So is that still in place?
The logistics are still, we're trying not to have to disclose too much information, but there will be sufficient government resources to relocate them in a safe manner. So,
but just so you know, we do have bus services. We've the Office of Homelessness Assistance and Poverty Prevention and the Guam Homeless Coalition have set up a pretty efficient transportation program with the Guam Regional Transit Authority and their interim manager, Richard Ibanez, who and they report on that monthly at our meeting.
Again, our perfect operation will be that when we come and go out there, there will be nobody there. Okay, well, thank you all for being here. Have a good day.